in August. This is the kind of temperature you get. High 90s, low 100s. But you know what? We're here at WLVS. I'm obviously not Alina 7. We are having, DC has the second worst traffic congestion in America behind Los Angeles. And so when something weird happens somewhere, it can cause drama everywhere. And Alina 7 got caught on the wrong side of the traffic pattern. But she may get here, she may not, but she's certainly here in spirit. We're going to have Nikki on momentarily, but in the meantime, as we do a little quick technical switch, in the meantime, boy, have we had a busy week here in Washington. I don't call him by his name. Number 45 has been on his Twitter machine again, and he's sounding out a lot of racist rants. Of course, the Republican Party has been silent and quiet. He has attacked everybody from Congressman Cummings, who frankly is one of the more honorable people in Washington, period. So to go after him is a little troubling. He also went after his old friend, his old antagonist, Reverend Al Sharpton. So he now seems to be going after pillars of the African American community. Whether you agree with their politics or not, they are clearly leaders. We are also going to talk a little bit about the debate tonight and tomorrow night. On the Democratic side, you'll have 10 people on stage. CNN is broadcasting it. And then tomorrow night, tonight you'll have Senator Warren and Senator Bernie Sanders will kind of be the highlight, and we'll see what they do this evening. And then tomorrow, you got the heavyweight matchup, Senator Harris versus former Vice President Biden. I always give full disclosure. Vice President Biden taught me when I was in law school, and I am proud to be a good friend of Senator Harris. So I like both of them, but we will talk a little bit about that. I also have, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens in the next stage of these debates as people start to whittle. A lot of folks are asking me and asking folks around the country, us pundits, how do you start to whittle down the number from 22? And what will happen is Tom Perez, who's the chairman of the Democratic Party, has put in different a roadmap relative to different thresholds. And with those thresholds will be what your poll numbers look like, how much money you've raised, how many donors you have. And then they'll start to whittle down. So my thought is by the next time you see me on the show, which will be at the end of August, unless Alina 7 is taking that part of August off, is you'll see a whittle down, and maybe you won't have 22 anymore. I can't tell you the number, but I don't think it'll be 22. And then as we roll into the fall, there'll probably be one more whittle down. And then you'll have folks that have the resources to hang around for the first part of 2020 and getting to what's called Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday's in March. California's on Super Tuesday, so I would anticipate Senator Harris isn't going anywhere until March. Not that she thinks she's going to win the nomination, so she may stay all the way through the convention. Clearly, Vice President Biden, who's doing really well with African American voters, he's not going anywhere. So the question is, between Senator Warren and Senator Sanders, where they are in the mix. They're kind of fighting over the same turf, over the same constituents. So we'll see what happens, and we'll talk about that. And then we have, you will see Nikki in a couple of minutes. We're going to talk Maryland politics, Prince George's County politics. I know we spend a lot of time on D.C., but today we will talk a little about Maryland and Baltimore, and clearly what these rants have meant for folks that live in the state of Maryland. They care about Maryland. They care about the city of Baltimore. And I think you'll see a hefty defense of that. So first, why don't we talk about 45 and what he has done over the last couple of days. Now, some people, depending on what side of the street you're on, will think that this is an excellent political strategy. Excellent. I want to make sure my base is comfortable, they're happy. I want to make sure they know that I stand with them, that all these black and brown people coming in this country, not a good thing. They're taking jobs from our people. It's hurting the economy. That's the one side of the street argument. The other side is it's just flat out racist. Now, a lot of folks for a long period of time have been bending themselves into pretzels Remember the old game Twister back in the day where you had to try to figure out whether you put your foot or your hand on a different color and you're bending yourself up in knots? Well, that's what you're seeing from Republican members of Congress trying to defend 45 on his comments. And frankly, it's a disgrace. And I don't think you would lose your cred. Yeah, maybe he would talk about you, maybe he wouldn't. But you certainly wouldn't lose your cred by standing up against racism. Same thing with Charlottesville. When Charlottesville happened, you heard a lot of crickets related to the Republican Party on being outwardly spoken that is absolutely wrong. Because what's happening, certainly in this pundit's point of view, is you have an electorate, some parts of the electorate, that actually like what they're hearing from 45. And Charlottesville is a prime example, and I don't know who raised it earlier today. I was watching one of the news shows this morning, that now if you have a torch in your hand and you're spewing out racial epithets towards the Jewish community, the African American community, or the Latino community, in today's world, they don't even wear hoods. They're just out there doing what they do without any fear, because the head of our country is saying, you know what, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Nothing's going to happen to you. Free speech. Say what you want to say. So depending on what side of the street you're on, you'll make the determination whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. Clearly, I think it's a bad thing. It's not good about what America is all about diversity, about celebrating our diversity. And because of that, you have a portion of the electorate. Frankly, when I say a portion, almost 40% of people in this country are using the excuse that, oh, the economy's okay, so it's okay to hear these racist rants. It's okay because I'm getting the kind of judges I want. It's okay. So when folks are making those kind of justifications, it makes it difficult to argue with them, or at least debate, because that's where they stand. So you probably heard that Al Sharpton and Congressman Cummings, as I mentioned earlier, were both personally attacked by 45. Of course, they hit back, and then it's a back and forth on Twitter or when people are on MSNBC or CNN. So we're going through this time, and just be ready. Whatever you see now, it's not going to get anything but worse the closer we get to the election. I would love to tell you, hey, this is just a moment in time. Don't worry about it. Everybody's going to sing Kumbaya. No. This 45 is going to do whatever it takes for him to stay in power, whether that's lying, being racist, cheating, and stealing. So this can't be close. So let me just, the point I've mentioned on when Lena Seven has been here, and I will continue to say it. Let's say you have a candidate of one of these wonderful, smart, talented, any of them would be better than 45 people that are running in the Democratic primary. You have any of them, but if you can support any of them, but if your person does not win, I implore you, I beg you, do not take your ball and go home. Make sure you may not like that candidate that ultimately won, but you have to support them unless you want 45 again. Let me be clear. Don't think you're making a point by staying at home, because the only point you're making when you stay at home because, oh, my candidate didn't win, is a vote for 45. So don't think you're making a point. You're not. You're helping him. And that's what he wants. He wants you to be so frustrated and politics doesn't mean anything, my vote won't count. He wants you to stay at home. That's his way of using voter suppression on you. Don't let that happen. So stay strong. Certainly watch the candidates, participate, but don't take your ball and go home. A prime example, in 2016, on the Republican primary side, there were 18 people that were running for president on the Republican side. And obviously only one person won. But you know what they did? They all lined up behind 45 when it was time. And they don't have to fall in love with a candidate. Oh, my father, when he was chair of the party, used to say, don't make a point, win. And that's the problem that Republicans do not have and never have. They want to win at all costs. And because of that, we are more compassionate. So when our candidate doesn't win, we're upset, we're sad, we're disappointed in the system. It didn't work. I worked so hard out in the street for my candidate, and now they're at home. But you can't stay at home. You have to go and vote. If you don't want to work for that candidate, you don't want to knock on doors, you don't want to get signatures, you don't have to do that. But you do and should vote. All right, so just keep that in mind. I know it's hard. Politics it's a hard business, hard sport, depending on how you look at it. But it's also about, elections have consequences. And when you win, you can do the things you want to do. Maybe it's not exactly to the position you like, but I guarantee you, whichever Democratic candidate becomes a their issues when they're president will be closer than 45's are to you. Guarantee that. So I'm going to bring Nikki up. If Nikki is ready to come up. I know she's doing a little work over there. She's always working nonstop. So we're going to take a break on WLVS. Michael Brown sitting in for Alina 7. See you in a minute. All right, back at WLVS Radio, Michael Brown sitting in for Alina 7, who was caught in some ugly, nasty, dirty, down low traffic here in D.C., even though we have the second worst traffic congestion in America. Boy, when drama hits, it can be so much worse. So we're hoping she makes it. If not, you'll see her next Tuesday, as usual, with her vibrant self. Today, you just have to deal with boring Michael Brown. But to liven the show up, I'm going to introduce Nikki in a second. She'll introduce herself to the WLVS Radio, both watchers and listeners. And then we'll talk a little bit about Baltimore, and we'll get back to a little bit about the 2020 candidates and get her take on that. So I'll turn it over to Nikki. Nikki, introduce yourself to the listening audience.
Hello, I'm Nikki Poncho. As you can hear from my raspy voice, I coach basketball. I just ended my summer season, so my voice isn't back yet. I also do a lot of work in the community and doing some special stuff in my city.
Oh, very good. Your city being?
College Park.
College Park, Maryland. So I'm playing golf out there this weekend at the University of Maryland, as a matter of fact.
All right.
I know it's going to be about 100 degrees.
Yes, it is.
We'll drink our Gatorades and water and do the best we can. Nikki, first question, and I would love to get your take on, I don't call him that P word, I call him 45.
Yes.
What is your take on 45's Twitter explosion over the last couple of days? And frankly, talking about, one of your homeboys, Congressman Cummings, who's not just a pillar in the black community. Frankly, he's a pillar in America. Yes. What do you think about 45 talking about him?
I honestly tell people don't get lost. Don't get lost in the made-for-TV rants. Don't get lost in what he's saying. Let's try and stay focused on what's important. Let's stay focused on, SNAP and gun violence, and just don't get lost in all that, because I feel like he changes the news cycle on purpose every day. And he wants us to be lost in the things in that news cycle so that we don't see what's going on behind all of that. And it's a lot going on. We have 3 million Americans that are about to lose their SNAP benefits. A lot of people don't know about that. And along with their children will lose their free lunches. So we can't talk about it because why? He's talking about Baltimore and how bad the city is and Elijah Cummings. So a lot of people are getting lost. And I tell people, listen to it, pay attention, because we need to know what he's saying. We need to know how to react, but still pay attention to everything else.
And that's great advice. And because folks, and he preys on that. He preys on the distraction. He prays that you'd rather talk about this at the water cooler rather than the SNAP issues you're talking about, or homelessness, or prescription drug benefits, or infrastructure. Remember, every week has been infrastructure with 45, and they never do anything.
Nothing's
and then when the press starts saying, "How come you haven't put anything forward?" Up. Then he throws his hand grenade. So how do folks that live in Baltimore, that care about the Charm City, and of course Baltimore extends out even to College Park. I mean, Baltimore, there are people from Baltimore all over the state of Maryland, all over this region. And so what do you do with some of your neighbors, and how are they dealing with it? Do they say, it's just 45, or do they take your advice?
I say do both. I mean, you listen because, like I said, we need to know what he's saying. We need to know what's coming out of the White House or on Twitter every day so that we know how to react and how to live. But at the same time, I think Baltimore, they need to stand up and speak for themselves. If you are proud of what Elijah has done for Baltimore, then stand up and say that.
Exactly, precisely. And since you're from College Park, and you're I don't know if you're a Terp, but you're certainly from College Park. College Park. And Hyattsville is obviously in that neighborhood, and now you have a Busboys and Poets in Hyattsville. Hyattsville is clearly expanding and doing really, really well. What has happened? Are you getting some of that same? Are black folks getting pushed out? Is gentrification also happening in Hyattsville and College Park?
It is happening, and it's sad to see it happen. But I see it right now. It's a good balance. It's not like in some pockets of D.C. where black folks have been pushed all the way out.
Correct.
So Hyattsville, they're starting with it. In College Park, I think because it's a college town, it's always been a really good balance of your blacks, your Hispanics, and whites. So you don't see it as prevalent as in College Park, but you can see it happening in Hyattsville.
And as most people say when they talk about gentrification, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I'm sure folks love the new restaurants and how Hyattsville is, because when I was growing up, Hyattsville was a different kind of place. Had a lot of car dealerships. And that's kind of what, you go to get your car, you go to Hyattsville. I lived up in Northwest D.C., but there were no car dealerships, so you got to go. So you had to, not now, but you had to go somewhere else. So,
because it's right on the line.
Exactly. So how are folks feeling about the expansion of Hyattsville? And for the folks that are getting pushed out, is it getting too expensive? What are some of the remedies to keep all those things from happening?
Well, it is getting expensive, but it is also exposing a lot of quote-unquote slumlords as well. Because now apartment complexes and managers and leasing companies are pushed to upgrade their apartments. So if you're moving into an upgraded apartment, of course it's going to cost you way more than it cost you 2 years ago. But now these other apartment buildings that are there are now forced to do some upgrades. They're now forced to make sure that the people that are living in their buildings are living better. So in a way it's good, but then in a large way it's bad because it's pushing us out. And a lot of us can't afford it. I'm a single mom of 2 kids. I can't go from rent that was a 2-bedroom apartment that was maybe $750 to now $2250. I can't afford that. So now I have to go into other areas where I may not want to live and lease an apartment because I can no longer afford my neighborhood. That's the sad part about it.
And it's interesting. So in the kind of 90s world, when a lot of, frankly, black millionaires were made, they moved out of D.C. into Prince George's County.
That's where I grew
so when
up.
you say folks are being pushed from Hyattsville, where do they go from there?
I think they're going into all various pockets of PG County now because they're trying to just find somewhere that's affordable and safe and feels good to them. So you're being pushed out of an area where you probably grew up into areas of town that you don't know about, or it may not be as safe for you, but it's within your income range. You know, everyone can't afford a $2,200 apartment. Or even if you back into DC, now the apartments are like $3,500 for a one bedroom or a studio. No one can really afford that, especially single parents. You know, they're making it hard on us.
Well, you know, what's interesting about gentrification is how it impacts folks relative. Like, my sister lives in Harlem with her family, and she said Harlem's completely changed. She said white folks walking down the street, and the key is they're not scared of black folks anymore.
No, they're not.
And as long as they're near a Metro or a Whole Foods, they're good. And so is that kind of what's happening in Hyattsville?
Yes.
Is that as things are getting more diverse relative to more white folks moving in, they're like, hey, I'm close to DC, less traffic, fine with me.
And that's exactly what's happening. There is a Whole Foods over there now, which is I think like 2 or 3 blocks down from the Busboys and Poets. Then you have your Metro. So yes, it's coming further into PG County. So it's pilfering over from DC into PG. So like I said, it's unfair for us who grew up in these areas. I grew up in PG County, up in Marlboro. It hasn't happened out there yet. I don't see it happening, but it doesn't mean it's not coming. And it's just very sad that we're being pushed out of areas where we voted all of our lives. We've lived all of our lives, so we've helped build these communities. Now we're being told you can't live here anymore because now you can't afford it, because now we have this big new high-rise here or these expensive homes here, and if you can't afford it, you have to move on. Move on to where?
Now, is the same thing happening with the school system where in that gentrification of the neighborhoods, you know, certain folks don't, I say certain folks, of course, don't like or don't have faith in the public school system, whether it's DC or possibly Prince George's. You'll answer that. So is there a charter school boom in Prince George's County?
No, I haven't seen a charter school boom yet in PG County. You can still count on the public school system, but a lot of parents are moving their kids into private schools. Why? Because a lot of parents feel like the public school educations aren't getting their kids ready for college. And I've coached basketball for like 15 years, and I say to kids all the time, what you're learning in school, in your high school, public school, sometimes it doesn't always correlate over to college. You have a lot of times kids go to college and they have no clue how to survive academically. And a lot of times it happens in a public school setting where they don't know, where they're not being taught on the same level or something is missing, and they move off to college. So parents are moving into private schools, not necessarily a charter school, but just a private school sector, because the education level is a bit higher, it's more intense. It's getting them ready for college.
Well, good. Well, we're going to take a break on WLVS. I can feel when Alina 7 is close. I can feel it. And I think she may have made it. I'm going to let her get herself together, get her some water, get that exhaust out of her lungs from being sitting in that traffic. So we'll take a break, and we'll see you back here with Nikki and Alina 7 on WLVS. much better. Woo, thank goodness Alina got here. Nikki's here. They're making me look good, boy. Well, as you can tell, Alina 7 has made it. Welcome.
I have made it, thank God. I mean, it was just, hey, this is what happens when you live in the urban area like we do, Washington, D.C. So,
Well, she's going to let me continue to hold the reins.
Yeah,
I can't
this is
believe she's
fun.
going to give an ex-politician the mic. Oh, you don't want that.
You may never get it back.
Well, you don't want that. Well, in the meantime, we had Miss Poncho on and Alina 7 and your listeners and viewers. We have been talking about Maryland politics in Baltimore, talking about how 45 kind of went crazy on his Twitter machine this weekend.
Oh, my God,
We've
did
talked a little bit
Yeah.
about that. And now we're going to get the basketball coach's opinion of the 2020 race. I'll ask her a couple questions. I'm sure you'll want to chime in.
Yep.
So, of the 22 folks running, how do you handicap it, or who do you like, or what have you heard so far? Is it too early? What do you think?
I think it's too early. I'm actually waiting to see who gets weeded out, because we know it's going to come down to money and who can run a national campaign and go out on the road and still be able to sustain being on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually waiting for it to dwindle down just a little. I mean, I know who I like what I'm hearing, but aren't they supposed to say things we like
Absolutely
right
correct.
now? So yes.
Well, what I mentioned, Alina, before you arrived, was talking a little bit about how the weeding down process is going to work.
Right.
And
Okay.
over the next,
that's a good one,
over
because
the
I
next
want to
month,
know
yeah.
that.
Here's how it'll work. So you have the
Okay.
debate tonight,
Okay.
then you have debate tomorrow.
Okay.
Then you'll see people will then have to make some decisions on who has the economics,
Yep.
where their poll numbers
Mm-hmm.
are, and then the DNC, Chairman Perez, will then start to, what my father did when he was chair, is you make the quiet call and say, hey, look,
Oh,
you did a
wow.
great
That's
job.
how it
You
works.
did
Thank
a
you.
wonderful job. We'll make sure we keep you plugged in, but it's time for you to go. That's that's, I hate to say real, because I like Chairman Perez, but that's what a real chairman would do.
Okay.
Is you let people, you give them their shot.
Their shot.
You see if they can
Okay.
raise it, see what they look like in the polls, but you can't have 20 people running through the end of the year. That's
Right.
just,
You
it's
can't do that,
it's
right?
unsustainable.
Okay.
So, yes,
Can't
Okay.
happen.
So, have you ever witnessed that phone call?
yes.
Oh wow. What were the reactions?
What was that?
That's,
No.
that was some,
Weird
that was some-
reactions.
yeah, because I was a younger cat.
Right.
But, it was fun to watch. You had some people that said, and this is at the time, and these for the old school cats, they'll know the names of Gephardt,
Yeah.
Rockefeller. I mean, there were serious people running, Tom Harkin. There were Bill Clinton, obviously, Al Gore. There were serious people running for president. And then when the brother calls you up on your phone and says, it's time. Some people said, whatever you need, Mr. Chairman, I understand. I wish I fought hard. Time for me to go.
Right.
And then you had other people say, I have to assess it, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Now, that's not good when you're going up against a strong chairman,
right.
because it's better to get in line than not, because then the chairman will remember you didn't fall in line when I asked you.
When I asked
Right.
you to. So you mean to tell me you can actually say you can disagree with what the
Oh, absolutely.
the
Yeah, you
chairman?
can- you-
It's
yeah.
not good to disagree,
Right,
but you
correct.
can disagree.
He can't make, like, my father couldn't make you get out. He could just suggest it.
recommend that.
But,
Okay.
but that's where the strength of chair comes in. Then you have to make the decision,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll get back to you, because you talk to your family and your advisors, and then you say, is it worth going forward when the chairman doesn't want you in anymore?
Right.
And then you have to make the decision, and you,
Okay.
as you could tell, everyone made the right decision.
Right.
Right.
Because Bill Clinton became the nominee.
Yep. Yep. Now he didn't have to make that decision with someone that a name we might be more familiar with.
And when do these calls start though?
Well,
Do we make all the calls in one
I
night?
think I think what'll happen, and I'll give you the timing.
Okay.
So you have debate tonight, debate tomorrow. No one's going to leave before August, because people are going to hit.
Right.
Congress isn't in session, so folks are
Right.
going to be all over the country trying to catch fire.
Okay.
But after Labor Day,
Yes.
if folks' bank accounts are low
Right.
and their numbers are in the single digits,
Right, that money.
it's probably time to start thinking it's not. It's probably not going
expensive.
to work out.
Okay, because,
very
it's like some of my questions here, I saw, like earlier today, they were saying before the September 10th. The
Right
group
after
of
Labor.
10.
That's what I mentioned.
They
Right
go
after
down
Labor
to
Day.
10.
Oh,
It's
right after
Day.
Labor Day is the September 10th.
Because if you're down
Okay.
to, I can't give a number, but let's say your bank account's getting real low.
Oh,
You've got to sprint around Iowa, you got to go to New Hampshire, wherever your home state is, you're going to spend some time there, and you're going
Right.
to spend it all. You have to.
Right.
Which means, what you mentioned, expensive. You got hotel rooms, rent-a-cars, cell phones. You got to feed your staff. I mean, this is not
Right.
a cheap. This is more than a notion
You gotta
running for
pay for
president.
your staff to
You-
travel,
yeah,
too.
absolutely. You
It's
gotta
a
do
lot
all
of
that.
expenses.
staff.
So you
yeah.
get basically you're rolling all the dice in August that you catch fire,
Right.
and then if you don't, after Labor Day, you will definitely see the whittling down.
Oh, wow, okay. So
No,
how,
but here's part of the problem. In today's world, where you don't have, I mean, yeah, of course you have to have money to run and be successful.
Yes.
But in today's world, because of things like this,
Right.
podcasts, online,
Social media.
you can sustain a little longer because you can still have a microphone.
Right.
Right.
And back in the day, you didn't have that.
Right. You have to be
Right.
in face to
Correct.
face.
So maybe you could have some folks lingering around for a while just because of things like this. Because they have access to voters without having necessarily have any money.
right.
Gotcha.
Now,
Yes.
let me ask you a question. Being that there's like a group, right? There's so many of them, but I don't really hear them coming out, speaking out against what Trump just said about Representative Elijah Cummings. And so I'm just wondering, is that something that they should speak out before the debate, or is that something that they're waiting to speak on during
Well,
the debate?
I tell you, Ms. Poncho brought up an excellent
Oh,
point
I'm
earlier.
sorry if you, did you guys talk
no,
about
but I'm-
that?
No,
Okay.
we didn't.
But Nikki brought up an excellent point earlier about, and we were talking about how one thing I'll give 45, he is an excellent distractor.
Yes, he is.
And so
Yes.
when you talk about that, those smaller candidates can't get any time because everybody else is talking about his racist tweets.
Right.
Okay.
So tonight, though, you will see it.
You'll-
Because
yes.
they have the mics and the cameras on them, they'll have a chance to do it tonight.
They'll have a chance.
And of course, he'll interject
Oh, he'll say
somehow.
something, right?
He'll say
He'll throw a
something
hand
crazy.
grenade in.
Yes, to take everyone away from the debate
Right,
tonight.
from
He'll
the
say,
debate.
Elijah Cummings looks like a
Right.
monkey.
Right.
You know, he'll say some stupid shit
Right.
like that.
And sometimes I feel like, I honestly truly feel like he doesn't mean a lot of what he says, but let's remember, the man, it's made for TV. Everything he says is made for the headlines.
He
So
is
does he
great.
mean it? I don't think we'll ever know if he's serious about the things that he says.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it gets him good ratings.
Yeah. Well, he also speaks in sound bites. He speaks in sound bites. He
excellent at that.
understands
Excellent.
that part of the business. He
Yes.
understands that no one has a long time to go over and over and over on what you're saying.
And
Right.
Elijah
So-
Cummings is way more handsome than 45 anyway.
Yes, and way smarter. But did
Yes.
you hear that he called Al Sharpton a con man?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
He
Al
did.
came right back and said, really?
And what did Al say?
It kind of basically like, that's the kettle calling the other kettle black. Or what's that terminology?
That's a pot calling the
Yeah,
kettle.
The
thank
pot
you.
calling-
Right, thank you. He basically said that. He said, give me a break.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't
he
know
didn't
that
really-
that's
Yeah,
what
he
he
called him
said.
immature,
Yeah.
tired, nothing, just, what
Oh,
are you
okay.
supposed to say?
Yeah,
I mean, do you want to really get in a war of words with him?
yeah.
Is it worth
exactly.
it? No.
And you're
Exactly.
never going to have the last word with him.
Right, never.
Because he's P. I can't put P and his name together.
Right.
So he's P. So he's always, like today, he walks out on the White House lawn to go give some speech in Virginia where African American leaders
They
boycotted.
boycott it.
And he gets on the mic and the press stops everything and takes everything he says. And that's
I
what you're
mean,
competing
that's
with.
amazing. I mean, he was sitting up there saying like this at the White House though this morning. I don't know if you saw this, but he was saying how, what did he say? He said African Americans have called his office.
Right.
He said,
Right.
and I know that they are so happy that I'm speaking out against the corruption coming from their own communities and the corruption going
Bologna sandwich.
I'm going to second
what
the
he was
notion.
saying,
I'm
you
going
know?
to second that bologna
Yeah.
sandwich because, it's just not true.
Right.
According to the Associated Press, only 6% of African Americans support him. 6%. Do you know how small that is?
That's a
But
really
he's saying
low
he's getting
percentage.
phone.
Yeah.
Maybe he got phone calls from that 6%.
That's very possible.
Maybe that's what happened.
Maybe.
tell also-
And maybe he thinks they speak on behalf of us. I
Yes,
don't know
I
where
don't
he's
know.
getting
I
his
guarantee you,
information
if they
from.
really
but-
had a flood of folks, he would have bought out a document
Yes.
with those
With those
people-
names
those
on
people
it.
saying,
Yeah,
"See,
with those-
see,
yeah.
see," and
I
he-
told you.
he didn't-
Yeah.
he didn't do
Igor,
that.
can you have
Yeah, he
him
would've said,
tighten
"I
up
told you."
the image? It's not tight enough. It needs to come in more to the show. Sorry.
Boy,
Yeah,
Lena
it's
Seven
way
coming
too
back
far
in,
away.
Being
Yeah.
the boss.
No, I'm just saying,
No,
yeah,
just-
now it's right. I know how my show is supposed to look, so I know. I'm sorry. It
Hair's
wasn't-
not
yeah.
down. I don't want to get too bad.
No, you liked it the way it was. You like,
You know.
I'm sorry. It's just supposed to be a little bit closer and a little more. Yeah, we were so far away. That's why. That's all. So go ahead. You are too funny, Michael. You are hilarious. Don't you want to look a little?
No,
people
what-
get
actually,
to
you know,
identify
Nikki-
you a little bit
Nikki,
more.
let me tell you what she really wants to do with that camera. It would just be her.
No, that's not true. I was
Okay,
trying
I don't
to
need to be
tighten
seen
up.
today.
No. I was
It's
trying
all right.
to tighten up because there was so much space over our heads and
Yeah, we're
over
just-
on
we're
the
just-
side.
we're
So
I was
I'm
okay
like,
with it.
you know, we look like
I'm
this,
just-
like we were this far away. So I'm like, man,
I was
what's
okay.
wrong with my show?
2 weeks
You
out
know,
from
when you
stylist,
see-
I'm good. I'm good. Trying to keep the
Okay,
shots.
so Michael,
Yes.
so after tomorrow or after
After Labor Day.
After Labor Day.
Labor Day, we'll know who
So
basically
by the time I
with
come
the
back
top.
on, yes, by the
10.
time I come back on at the end of September, there is
Okay.
no way there will be 22 people.
No.
Okay.
I mean, and you can kind of probably pick from the 22 people who will probably still be going. Like, you know, Warren, who just has a policy for everything.
Okay.
She has everything covered. Like, she
Right.
has a, she
Elizabeth
yeah,
Warren,
she
she's
has an
talking
idea
about.
for everything. So she'll still be there, you know, and
Right.
Klobuchar and Biden and Bernie will still be there. Like, you can probably pick.
Kamala.
Yeah,
But what
Kamala.
about, okay, so my question is to you guys,
Kamala.
what about Cory Booker?
You know, it's interesting. I think a lot of people are surprised
Yeah.
that he didn't really catch fire.
No, he didn't.
And he just didn't.
So
He did.
upset
He
about
didn't.
that
And I
myself.
can't say whether he'll be around after Labor Day because again, I can see him hanging tough. He probably just raised just enough money. He'll probably be just inside the cut line on the poll.
Right.
So I could see him still being around, but he just never caught fire. He's like Beto. Beto had big opportunity tonight.
Yes.
This is it for Beto. He's one of those people on the cusp,
Really?
and everyone's disappointed and surprised he hasn't caught on. So tonight's an interesting
I
night.
don't think he'll make the cut.
Beto or Corey or either.
Beto.
Oh, okay, got it.
I think Corey will, but he'll probably be at the bottom. But I don't see Beto making. I don't see him making the cut because he
Too
didn't
bad.
catch fire either.
He didn't catch fire. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
really.
Buttigieg is doing great. I feel he'll
Oh,
still
really?
be in there.
Oh,
Because he's
okay.
raising the
Why?
money.
He's raising a lot of money.
the money.
But
Oh,
until
okay.
it's hard to become a nominee without black support. It's
Yes.
almost impossible.
Yes.
So he has to figure that out.
Okay.
And he's,
so
he's
who
trying
does
to
have
figure
the-
it out. It's sad that he hasn't yet.
So
but
who basically has the black support right
Vice
now?
President Biden.
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 Biden has all
And
the
then,
support.
and then, you know,
And then
depending on which
who
poll
else?
you look at, Senator Harris is clearly right
Right.
there.
Okay. And
I guess Senator Warren is doing okay.
I would. Yeah,
Yeah, she's
teetering, you know, it's
Bernie's doing
okay.
okay.
Bernie's doing okay.
Bernie's
But it's,
doing
it's
okay.
re- the gap, though, it's incredible.
Yes.
The gap between Vice President Biden and everybody else with the
Yes,
African
it's
American vote.
huge.
Huge.
It's huge.
Really? So
Yes.
he's still carrying what, about 60,
No, he took- he got-
70%? Then
Yeah,
is that what
well,
you're
I don't know if he's
saying,
60 or 70, but he had that little hurdle with Senator Harris at the first debate. He
Okay.
clearly came back to the pack.
Yes.
But a few days after that, he went right
He went
back
back up to the top.
Oh, wow.
So he's up 20 points.
Yes. So
Wow.
he definitely he has a lot of. I feel like he has a lot of carryover from the Obama administration.
Absolutely.
And because he was a part of that administration, people trust him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They trust him. So they're
Yeah.
going to. People are looking for him to stay in front of the pack at this point, and they're going to do their best to keep him there.
Yeah, and I think also because his, what does he have, a 50-year career
Oh, easy.
in
Oh, yeah.
politics?
Oh, yeah.
Right? 50-year career. So, I mean,
And
I
keep in
think,
mind, and that one of the reasons those attacks didn't stick, and I'm not mad at Senator Harris, she did what she had to do.
Right.
Is that you got to, I know we know how to spell assume, but you have to assume that at the time, Senator Obama, President-elect Obama said, did all the research on Vice President and would
definitely.
never have picked him.
Right, if there
were
was a
any
major
issues
issue.
about race.
He would
So
not have picked him.
It's not gonna really
Yes.
catch.
It's not going to catch.
Yes.
Oh, okay. You know, that's actually smart
Yeah.
though to think about it that way. Why would?
That's
yeah.
what I thought when it first came out. I said, well, he wouldn't have been on that ticket with Obama if there had been a major issue. So a lot of times at this point in when you're running and in campaigns, things do get exasperated.
Right.
But he was still on that ticket, and that's what people looked at, and that's why I think it didn't catch fire the way that other people thought it would, and it's kind of dwindling down now. People
Yeah.
aren't worried about that.
Yeah. Who would you say, Nikki? You're a coach in your other life. In
One of my other lives.
One of your other lives. You're a coach. You deal with young kids.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, even to the extent of like young kids, do you hear anything in our communities with young kids about who are they putting their support behind? Who are they interested in? You know, things
I
like
really
that?
don't.
No.
This generation of kids that are coming up now aren't paying attention.
They're not paying
and I
attention.
talk, you know, and I've had these conversations with my son and my daughter. My son's 22, my daughter's 24. They're paying attention, but not yet. And that's what my son said. He said, I'm not yet, Mom. He said, I think Biden's going to win it. He said, because, you know, he's an Obama dude. That's what my son said.
Oh,
So
okay. That's
I
the
think that's what a
association.
lot of
Yeah.
young people are thinking. He was with Obama, so we're going to go with that.
Yes.
And they're not really paying attention to all the noise on the outside about Biden. So
Okay.
that's all I'm hearing at this point. That's-
Really? That's all you're hearing?
That's all
That's
I'm
interesting
hearing.
because I thought maybe Bernie Sanders might penetrate that youth. You know what I'm
you
saying?
know, they tend
Like,
to cling on to what they already know.
Yeah,
They tend to
do.
grab onto what they know. And they know that he was with Obama, and they feel, you know, the youth, our young kids feel like Obama did a great job. They're still looking up to him, and they're still looking towards him as far as their own futures.
Right.
So Biden is just in a good position when it comes to the youth, because a lot of them only know Obama Biden. That's all
Right.
they know.
And
Yeah.
the 800-pound gorilla in the room is the former president. And
Yes.
when he starts to put his finger on the scale, whether it's making little comments on Twitter or, I mean, obviously the overt is just at
Yes.
the press conference with this candidate.
Yes.
But in the meantime, I think at the beginning of the year, and a lot of people are, you know, Mr. President, why aren't you talking about this current guy? We're disappointed. You need to say something.
I think he needs to.
I think come January, you'll see a whole different former president. I think you'll see him much more engaged, probably sending little tweets out about which policy he likes and watch which policy he likes, watch it match a particular candidate. And, you know, Biden is trying to save Obamacare. That's going to go a long way with the
way.
former president. You can't talk about eliminating Obamacare and think he's going to support you.
Right.
Let's be clear about that.
Right.
I mean,
No,
that's
you
his legacy.
can't.
That's
You
his
really
legacy.
can't.
No, but
His
You
legacy
really
is
can't.
the ACA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So there's no
Yeah.
way.
Right.
you
You're
know,
right.
Hence, look at Biden's policy on healthcare now.
Right.
Let's fix it, but save
Let's
it.
save
You get
it.
to keep
Let's
if
fix
you're
it.
at work and you got your little private healthcare, keep that. We'll make sure the private mandate is back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Obamacare.
That's Obamacare. Doesn't go anywhere.
Wow.
Stays in
wow,
place.
That's a good point, though. I mean, that's a really good point. I'm trying to see where I am. Okay. In terms
You
of
got your,
time,
you
I
got your
Your
Gucci,
purse
her
is in the way.
Gucci bag. Her Gucci bag is blocking it.
The Valentino flip
See
flops.
my time. I'm not, I'm accustomed to being there a lot sooner. So, okay. So is there anything else that we need to talk about that? Because, I'm just coming in. So, because we have a few minutes left, I don't want to miss anything.
There's one question I wanted to ask, and I just heard in the street.
Okay.
I don't know if true or not.
Okay.
But I heard that Nikki was getting some pressure
Oh,
to
yes.
think about running for office. I don't know which office folks are pressuring you on. I just heard that they're like, that Poncho girl. We need to get her in office. So what? I don't know if you want to make any comments or give an announcement on the Lena 7 show. Mike is yours.
I heard that as well. Announcements, no. But I did
Is
hear
there
that.
something going on?
I mean, I do plan to run for an A office.
Oh.
I've always said I would. And I always said that once my kids didn't need me anymore, I was going to go into politics. And then one day I found out they're going to always need me.
That's just,
So what am I waiting for? So I have
Right.
not made any announcements yet.
Okay.
But it's coming.
oh, very good.
Really? Okay.
Congratulations
what are
on
you?
your decision.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yes,
Good
that's
luck.
wonderful.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I support you anyway. You know that. You
Thank
can
you.
always come back. You can always come back. Nikki,
Thank
you
you.
know that.
I come from a long line of, my grandmother lived in Columbia Heights my entire life. So all I
okay.
know is, being a civil servant. And I just want to take it to the next level.
Okay,
My grandmother
that's
did a lot with
wonderful.
the Berry campaign for years. She lived in D.C., well, like I said, my whole life, since the 50s. So she was always a part
Wow.
of it and
Yes.
helping her city councilmen run campaigns and get elected.
Okay.
So, door-to-door stuff and being in the community and feeding the homeless and being out there with the youth. That's all I know, and helping the senior community. That's all I know. So for me, I just want to amplify it and take it to another level.
Wow, that is wonderful. I had no idea. Because we do, Michael,
We do
you don't
sports
know this,
TV
but
together.
we do like a sports show together.
I did not know that.
I
just
know
thought
you
I was
don't
just a
know
regular
that.
sports
So, yeah, so she like co-hosts the show. Sometimes it's called the Round Ball Report in Prince George's County for Prince George's County Community TV. So I did not even know that until she pulled me aside. We did a show recently, and she said to me, hey, you know what I mean? Let's talk about me coming
Yeah.
on. I'm interested, and maybe we could. I was like, what? I would love to have you on. I'm looking for females all the time for my show. So, I mean, it's a pleasure to have you on. We missed you the last time, but I'm glad
Yes,
that
thank you.
we finally could make it work where you had the availability
Thank
in
you.
your schedule
Thank
to
you.
come and do my show. So I wish you the best. Is there any particular area you might be thinking about running?
I live in College Park.
Okay, College Park. Okay. So would it be relative to College Park?
Yes.
It would be.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Would it be strictly local?
That's all I'm going to say about that.
That's all you're gonna. Okay, you know I'm nosy. So I want to know it all. But okay, good. Well, maybe you'll be making your announcement in some capacity when he makes his announcement in some capacity.
Really?
No,
So we'll
no.
be announcing together?
She's Miss Rumorville.
Oh.
That's what Alina Seven does. She starts rumors. So.
Rumorville.
Not start rumors. I just heard a little birdie just told me, So, and I just happen to be fortunate to have you two on my show this week. So, so I just wanted to kind of put that out there that I'm in support. I love people who are trying to impact our world positively, and I know you guys are. So I just wanted to put that out
Thank
there.
you.
So, okay.
Wait,
So,
before you do that, Nikki mentioned her kids before you go to the next question. I don't know if you do the same. My kids are over 21 too. And I call them adults in training because you may be an
Yes.
adult by age,
Yes.
but as long as you stay in my pocket,
Yes.
you're an adult in training.
In training.
So
I agree.
when they get out of my pocket, you're a full adult.
I agree. I totally agree. And they get upset because my son will be like, well, I don't want to say I'm grown yet, Mom. I say, yeah, because the moment you say it, you're out of my pocket.
That's right, there
And
you
they
go.
totally understand it.
So-
My daughter's 24, and she tells people all the time, no, I'm not grown yet. No,
Oh,
because
she's
they're
like,
still
no,
in my
I'm not
pocket.
grown yet.
Yes,
I'm not
no,
grown
no,
yet.
yes, because as long as you're in my pocket, in my bank account, you're still the child. You're still the child.
but what happens if somebody's not completely in your bank? Who stays on the road a little bit? No, I'm just playing. My daughter is still in my world in a bunch of capacities. So, but anyway, she was at the City Open. She lost yesterday, but she had a great tournament. I was so proud of her. So, just wanted to put that out there. She really played well. So, so one last question, I guess, before we go, because we have a few more minutes, right? So, there was something here. What do you think? That's what my question was to you guys. What do you think is the weakness of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's campaign?
I'll go
For
first.
weakness? You can take this one.
Here we go. Okay, no
Yes.
problem. I think there's several. I mean, every candidate has weaknesses, and I think the question again, everything has to be judged in the prism of 45,
Okay.
and who can deal with him, because his whole campaign was in 2016 is based, as you mentioned earlier, on sound bites. And when 60 million people are going to be watching these debates when it's just him and whoever the Democrat nominee is, it's the soundbite he's going to go after.
Right.
And so the weakness is who is, oh, that person's really, really nice. You can't be really, really nice with 45. So I think the weaknesses are when you look at all these candidates, everyone's just a nice person. So who is the one you think can be a little gangster? Because that's what it's going to take. And so I think the weaknesses are too compassionate. Nothing wrong being compassionate on issues. That's fine. But when you're in hand-to-hand combat with 45,
45.
you can't be, let's
Nice,
sing
yeah.
Kumbaya. He's not into Kumbaya. He's going to call you stupid.
Yep.
He's going to call you a bum. He's going to say you can't be president. How do you respond?
Right.
Because some people aren't going to want to hear, let's just all get along. They want
He
to.
doesn't fight. Right.
Right. So I think the weaknesses are that Senator Harris, is she tough? She's a former prosecutor. I will put her
I
up
think
against
she's tough.
45
I would too.
anytime.
Yes.
But
Okay.
absolutely.
Just because she's a former prosecutor, she's not going to back down. And that's what I get from her. I don't think she has any back down in her. But you're absolutely right. You can't get up there side by side to 45 and think that you're just going to keep this nice smile and you're just going to talk about the issues. It's not going to be about the issues.
Which is what Hillary
It's not
did.
right, and it's not going to
Hillary
be about what you stand for. None of that is going to matter. It's going to be about everything that he says. Are you going to be able to handle what he says and come back with something else?
Right.
Because it's not going to be about what you think it's going to be about. And yes, Hillary tried to stick to the issues. She tried to talk about things that she wanted to push forward. It didn't matter. He crushed her.
Yeah.
So someone has to stand up and be the bigger monster, so to speak, or the bigger dog. I don't know what you want to call it, but somebody has to be stronger.
Yeah. But
Now,
he's
Has
always
be
gonna
stronger.
hit
A
people
better
below the
soundbite.
belt because he doesn't fight fair.
No.
He's
No, he
gonna fight
doesn't.
unfair.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, you have to neutralize him, and you gotta get him scared. That's how I feel.
Gotta guard
You
the
gotta
chin.
knock him off of his game. You gotta put the fear, somehow put some fear in his.
Now, Vice President, as we've talked about, seems to get under his skin.
He does.
Because he always is tweeting about Biden. And then Biden said, for you DC folks, he said, I'll steal you. and he said, well, he didn't say, of course, Biden didn't say that. But translation to regular talk, he said, I'll
steal
punch you in the nose. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting. He's already trying to lay the groundwork for
Yes, he
being
is.
tough.
And I think that someone has to treat him like, well, you don't have any energy, or like he did with President Bush's brother, Jeb Bush.
Right.
He said, you have no energy, shut up.
It's
Someone
real.
has to be dismissive
Right.
of him. So, but we'll see how things go. Hey guys, it was so much fun. I have to let We the Shit get ready to come on and do their
We the
thing.
ship. We the ship.
We the bomb, we the shit. No. Let them come on and do their thing. So, as usual, every Tuesday, 6 p.m., I'm right here at listenvisionlive.com with The Hustle. I didn't get to do my live piece today because I was stuck in traffic. So, anyway, look for my live Facebook Lives the rest of this week. I'll be at a very important event called at City Swings. It's owned by an African-American female who owns a golf simulation
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
place over
going?
there.
Mhm.
You're going
On
to that
8th
event?
Street?
Yes, that's a very positive event. It's going to be going on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think, no, right? Wednesday or
I know I'm
Thursday,
going on
Friday.
Friday. I don't know
You're
how many
going on
days
Friday.
I'm on.
Okay. It's a few days and it has the trophy from the PGA Tour. It's going to be making its debut here. And, it doesn't really travel. So it cost a lot of money to bring that trophy here, the one that Tiger Woods got. So anyway, so it'll be here. So we'll be doing some Facebook Lives the rest of this week. And then maybe some stuff from the City Open. Even though my daughter's out of the City Open, I was so proud that she even got in. And she
They
did
cheated.
her
She
thing.
should have won. They cheated.
She should have won. She should have won. She'll win next time. But I'll see you guys. The Hustle, 6 p.m. I'll see you guys next week. Michael, thank you so much. Nikki, thank you. How to get any information from Nikki?
NikishaPoncho.com.
Okay, Michael.
Emmy
as
Brown,
usual.
DC, if you want to tweet me.
All right. I'll see you guys next week. Later. Bye. Lena 7 everywhere. Later. Bye. The Hustle. See